Hi, I'm Allan Seccombe. I'm chatting to Roger Baxter, Chief Operating Officer at the Chamber of Mines, about the strike in the platinum and gold sector. Roger, we've had Amcu issuing strike notices to the platinum and gold companies. Just wanted your take on this. I mean, we've come out of 2 years, particularly for the platinum sector, very difficult 2 years, and now we're faced with potential strike action. Just your view on the way this could play out.
Well, I think before we get to the sort of perspective of where this discussion goes to, I think it's important to just highlight that in the gold mining sector there is a wage agreement that is in place, and the gold mining companies through the Chamber are going to court seeking an interdict against the strike action by Amcu. And the reasons for that is we think the existing agreement in place was extended to all parties, and that obviously has a direct bearing on whether strike activity is illegal or legal. So that's on the gold mining side. On the platinum mining side, clearly the negotiations have not led to the conclusion of a final agreement in areas where Amcu are the majority. And the consequence of that is that they have worked through the legal system, through the Labour Relations Act, and and I think all the unions have been doing that in the last year and a bit. And they have strike certificates, and they've obviously given the notice period. The platinum mining companies obviously are preparing for the strike activity starting on Thursday. The implications are very big, and they're big because in the platinum sector, the divide between what Amcu are looking at from a wage demand perspective and what the industry can really afford to pay without undermining the medium and long-term viability of the sector, is big. The chasm is big, and so it's a critically important issue. If Amcu's wage demands were awarded by the mining companies, if the mining companies agreed at those levels, it would affect the viability of a number of South African platinum companies, and that's just not in the interests of the country or the industry. Again, any strike activity also has a major bearing on the economy as a whole. Yes, everyone has the constitutional right to go on strike, to withhold labour, provided it's done within the context of the law, and provided they don't interfere with those workers that do want to go to work. But from a national country perspective, when we're sitting running a 6.5% current account deficit, where platinum alone is nearly 10% of our export earnings, the impact on the economy and the impact on the industry and the viability of the platinum sector obviously are very significant.
Roger, we saw quite heavy losses incurred by the platinum companies over the past 2 years to industrial action. Could you put a figure on that and say what it has meant for the industry to have these kind of losses in an environment where they have very high costs and a fairly weak platinum price or platinum group metal basket price?
That's right. I think what's important is I think a lot of people tend to focus on the platinum price itself, and we do have a basket price which is also made up of palladium, rhodium and other precious minerals, and the basket price in general is a couple of $100 less than the platinum price. So if platinum's sitting at $1,450, you might end up with a basket price of closer to $1,200 per ounce per platinum ounce produced. So I think the critical issue is that in the last couple of years, in 2012, when there was a large amount of illegal or unprotected strike activity, the estimates were that some more than 10 billion rands worth of revenue was lost. That excluded wages that weren't paid, electricity that was paid for but not used because you can't switch off deep level shafts. It was suppliers that couldn't supply the industry because there was no need for the product, while the mines were sitting still, etc. So just on the gold and platinum mines, if you take them together, it was more than 15 billion rands worth of lost foreign exchange. That was in 2012. 2013 was much more of a year where all the parties focused on stabilizing the industry. We had the Minister's Peace Accord, which was signed by all parties in February. We had the Deputy President's Framework Agreement for a Sustainable Mining Industry signed in July. A lot of work went into stabilizing the industrial relations environment, promoting peace and stability, security, law and order, etc. And I think 2013 was a better outcome than I think a lot of people anticipated versus 2012. We're starting off 2014. We have the strike certificates, and obviously it's a challenging environment. I think it's very important that all parties work closely together on realizing as pragmatic as possible outcome, which enables the platinum sector to get on with its business of focusing on cost containment, improving productivity, and really being a key reliable supplier to the rest of the world, which is a reputation which has been established over a period, but which has been challenged since 2012.
Northern Platinum Management and the National Union of Mineworkers, they're into the 12th week of the strike. I believe they've just signed now, today. But 11 weeks of strike where the company has said no double digit. So they agreed to 9.5%. Could we see a similar hardening attitude from the other three platinum companies in this strike, where they just cannot go beyond a double-digit pay increase? And yet the precedent's clearly been set by Northern that it will not budge beyond a certain level.
I think what's important is what is really affordable by the industry. The viability issue. A number of our platinum mines, as we speak, are loss-making, and further large increases in the wage bill, which is the biggest component of our production costs, is going to put more mines at risk of potential closure as we go forward. So I think it's critically important that the offers that have been put on the table by the large companies are offers which are genuine offers seeking to achieve agreement on what is really affordable for the industry at this particular time.
Chris Griffith, CEO of Anglo American Platinum, said today in a statement that this strike, if it goes ahead, could lead to further job cuts at Anglo American Platinum, which has just undergone a big restructuring. How real is that threat? And is this, could Amcu just say, look, these guys are trying to, what would it be, blackmail or leverage us into accepting lower offers? How real is the threat to jobs in the platinum sector? Again,
with numbers of 40% of the industry being loss-making or marginal at current prices before long-term capital, I think the point to be made is that this is the viability of many shafts, etc., are being challenged in the existing environment before the wage increases. After the wage increases, how will they sustain it? Sustain some of these shafts. So I don't think it's a negotiating tactic. It's a simple statement of the facts that the industry is in a very difficult space, and the parties need to work together to reach an amicable solution which can take the industry forward. But the differences, and the gap between the two obviously is a serious challenge. But the extremes are going to create real difficulties for the industry, and I think Mr. Griffiths and the other platinum CEOs have been quite clear that the industry is in a difficult space.